Hey everyone, Anne-Marie, spiritual life coach here, owner of the Soul Awakening Academy. So I'm going to take you along a journey, the 7 steps to know your true self, know your true worth, if you like. I call it the 7 steps to spiritual alchemy because for me, it's about peeling back the layers, transmuting the limiting beliefs into positive affirmations and positive behaviors to enhance the quality of your life. Most of the clients, just want to make sure I'm plugged in. Most of my clients come to me because they've lost their way in life, that they've fallen out of connection with the true self. So that's what the 7 steps does. It works through the chakra system, as each chakra holds a life theme, and it peels back the conditioning and the imprinting that we've had placed upon us. And that can create a false self or a projected version of the true self. So to really have an optimal life, to function fully, to have fulfilling relationships, it's important that you discover the true you, not feel like you have to hide yourself from the world. So I'm going to take you through a round of tapping on each chakra. Each chakra has a theme, and before each tapping section, we'll focus on what that chakra represents. And for you to really figure out what the story is being held in that particular chakra. And then we'll tap on the emotions that come up for us, governing that life theme. A memory might come to mind, some emotions might arise for you, and we'll use EFT tapping to help neutralize those the high emotional intensity that surrounds this memory or this certain period of time in your life. So let me talk you through a little bit of science regarding EFT and how it works. So EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique, and what it works on is ancient Chinese acupuncture system contains meridians all throughout the body. Meridians are said to be the vessels that carry our vital life force energy through our system. And when emotions become stuck, stored, or suppressed, it can have a negative effect on our body. Just some flashing lights from the camera. So emotional freedom techniques works by reducing the intensity. Now, the reason I believe it does this is because it gives us an opportunity to name how we're feeling rather than keeping those emotions suppressed and locked in the body. There's a great body of work by Dr. Candice Pert, Molecules of Emotion. She says that every emotion we have, unless it's given an expression, an outlet, it stores in our body. It will hide in any place it can, and it can present itself as disorder or disease in the body. So by giving our emotions an output in this way, by expressing them, naming them, we're neutralizing them, we're letting them go, we're freeing them from the body. So what happens in the brain for us to have this high emotional intensity? Well, we have our eyes, and that our eyes perceive our environment, but as adults, but our brain is very much shaped when we're children. So we have something in the brain called the amygdala, which are glands, and the amygdala can regulate our fear, fight or flight stimuli. So depending on our early environment, how we perceived our early environment to be, was it dangerous, were we humiliated a lot, put down, lived with anger, trauma. Now this trauma might not have happened to us directly, but it just might have been in our environment subconsciously, that we could have been bullied at school at an early age, anything that overstimulates this amygdala and makes us perceive our environment as unsafe. What else can I tell you? So also, what we perceive our environment to be is very much filtered with our belief system. So all of all of our belief systems are formed from a very early age, up to the age of 7 years old, when we've formed patterns of behavior, or we've interpreted what the world is and who we are in the world. We form a hard belief system, and the brain has to continue with this belief system to maintain the truth about itself, maintain the truth about who we think we are, because that keeps us safe, it keeps us going, it keeps our daily life, gives us a continuum, gives us a routine, it keeps us safe in knowing, a feeling of knowing who we are. But the belief system is not it's not necessarily true. It's only true based on the belief system's viewpoint, normally formed from a traumatic or painful experience at some point in our life. And we form this belief system, and that can carry on until our adulthood, until we start to try and change our brain or change our behavior with neuroplasticity. So the amygdala are glands that they call the anxiety switch. It's responsible for our fight or flight response in the autonomic nervous system, which governs our fight or flight response or our rest and digest response. So the amygdala are two almond-shaped glands in the brain, which actually scientists now say that it's responsible for us processing emotions as well, not just processing anger emotions or aggression emotions, gives us our fear, anxiety, etc. But the limbic system as well is part of it. It's an old part of the brain, and it's attached to the brain stem, which then governs our autonomic response and our cranial nerves, which is responsible for our behavior. Let me see what else I can tell you. Yeah, so the emotions that we feel are governed by our endocrine system, and the hypothalamus is a really important part of the brain. Actually, the hypothalamus regulates all of our body's responses and drivers, like sex, hunger, sleep, but it also drives that autonomic nervous system. So just taking it back, visually, we're interpreting our environment not just by our eyes, but by our senses as well, our sight, our touch, our taste, and our smell. We're interpreting our environment. We're bombarded by all this information. We have to, in NLP terms, delete, distort, and filter all of the information that's being bombarded onto us at once. We have to do this so we don't kind of implode with all this information. The brain is said to produce 100 billion neurons, all that activity going on at one moment in time. So we're so stimulated. We're having all these responses that we're not aware of at all. So you've got the hypothalamus, which regulates all of your body functions automatically. You don't have to think about it, but it regulates that nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, which branches off into two parts of the nervous system: parasympathetic and sympathetic. Sympathetic, I always get this wrong, is fight or flight, and parasympathetic is rest and digest. So the sympathetic fight or flight is what's triggered by the amygdala activity. When the amygdala activity increases, it sends out a signal to our body to shut off certain functions that we don't need, digestion and urination, and to increase the rest of the bodily functions we're going to need to run away, basically, or fight. And that's the increase in the heart rate, increase in sweating. We lose saliva from the mouth, and actually our critical thinking goes as well. So the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for thinking rationally, is depleted. We just have to be focused in on the danger, and our body responds to that danger. There was something else that I wanted to tell you. Let me think what it is. So what we're doing with tapping is we are bringing down the amygdala. We're calming down the amygdala. We're naming these emotions that we wouldn't normally do in our day-to-day life, but we're tapping on the body, which is the meridian points which hold the chi, the energy, but we're tapping on that and naming them and basically giving ourselves positive affirmations. We are soothing ourselves as adults. So maybe we didn't get that as a child when we were in that fearful situation. We just went into panic and that's stored in the brain. So if we had a really high aroused amygdala when we were children, that can stay switched on. And if it stays switched on, we perceive our environment just to be dangerous all the time. That's signaling to the body. We have an absolute flood of hormones into the endocrine system, which I think I was trying to tell you that before, which is regulated by the hypothalamus. So the amygdala, the hypothalamus, the hypothalamus produces all these endocrine system which tells us to be sad, fearful, angry, upset, remorseful, etc. These are all the emotions produced. The chemical messages produce these hormones which flood your system, which then we think, oh, it's a feeling, it's a sensation, it's an emotion that we can be aware of, but we might not quite know why we're feeling it. It's an interpretation taken in by the brain, hits the amygdala. As adults, we do have a bridge from the prefrontal cortex to the amygdala. And this bridge as adults can act as a rational thinking part of our brain. So as children, we don't have that. And as you know, with any kind of toddler, it just has this emotional outburst. It doesn't have that critical thinking bridge where it can say, okay, can I be rational about this for a minute? It's okay that they've taken my toy. I'm going to have it back in 5 minutes. They don't have that. And that's why you see these toddler tantrums. It's because vision, prefrontal cortex, interpretation, and they have this meltdown because the amygdala has just had this hyper activity. And then hopefully with good parenting and a soothing environment, the child is soothed down. And then that can become an environment, a belief system that everything will be okay. Like, I know how to self-soothe as children. But if children don't have that self-soothing ability, that it's okay, you know, the world's not bad, everything's always okay. If we don't have that as adults, and we just have this belief system that everything's fearful, then we'll have this hyper arousal of the amygdala, which will affect the hypothalamus, which affects our nervous system, which affects our bodily responses. And we all know that if we're in this high aroused state of stress and anxiety caused by the fight or flight response in the body, then our immune system shuts down. We can be prone to burnout, you know, ME, fibromyalgia, that kind of thing. So by doing EFT tapping, even positive affirmations, we're really helping the body to self-regulate. We're really helping, and we're basically being the parent to ourselves, the good parent to ourselves that the scared part of us or the immature part of us needs. So that's how EFT works in the body. So hopefully you've understood that. I've tried to kind of summarize it for you as best I can. It's about self-regulation, and we can use this if you can't tap. You know, if you're in a public place and you can't tap, you just use your ability as an adult to bring in that bridge between the prefrontal cortex that does the rational thinking, that makes decisions. It's a great project manager, it's a great decision maker. And the amygdala, which is that kind of, maybe say, the anxiety switch or the aggression controller, and have that bridge between it. So know that sometimes how we perceive reality is not necessarily truth, and it comes back to those early belief systems that were formed. How are you viewing this scene in front of you that normally you get triggered by and you can't help these emotional outbursts? Just take a moment to desensitize yourself to the situation, step away from losing control, and really question how you are perceiving this situation. And that really is how you can change your brain, change the neuroplasticity in your brain, is changing the way that you perceive things. Because this way of perceiving things has become so automatic for you. You don't have to think about it at all. It is just literally you see it and you respond, you see it and you respond. There's no bridge in between. So it is about becoming more emotionally intelligent and filtering the information in a way that kind of takes you out of your usual belief system to just ask yourself, is that really true? There's a great body of work actually that springs to mind, Byron Katie, The Four Questions. Is it really true? How can I know it's really true? And who are you without the thought? And it's who are you with the thought? Who are you without the thought? So it's really interesting to question your belief system. So I hope that helps, guys. Make sure you're geared up and ready for all of our chakra stories. So the first chakra is going to be the root chakra. It is about our survival, our instincts, our body, how safe we feel in the world, the foundations. And we'll move up to our emotions, our relationship, then our identity, then our ability to unconditionally love, our ability to speak our truth, our ability to use our intuition, and our ability to connect to our soul consciousness. So I look forward to taking you on this journey. Take care.